Okay, now we're going to bring up Emily Murphy with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, and Emily is going to explain the various government programs for food assistance at farmers market and how they apply at farmers markets. SNAP, WIC, Senior Farmers Market, Nutrition, Fruits and Vegetables, so forth and so on. I do know a little bit about this, and I do know that a lot of these programs are not available in rural Minnesota. I know they're not available in our market, but a lot of them are in the metro area. Emily.
Great. Hi, I'm Emily Murphy with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. I'm the director of the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, so those of you who have participated in it in the past, my predecessor was Carol Milligan, and she retired October 1st, so I'm quite new to this position, but I'm very excited to be here. And just as a little background, I grew up in Albany, Minnesota, which is about 30 miles west of here on 94. And my parents had a huge organic garden, and we sold actually at the St. Cloud Farmers Market for a few years. And we'd get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, load up the car, drive it over. And I remember customers coming by and wondering, why should we buy, and it was organic foods too, so it's sort of, why should we spend more money on your produce when we could just go to Cashewise and save a few bucks? So it's really exciting to be here personally too, because that was in the mid-90s, and there wasn't as much education about farmers markets and locally grown and organics. And so it's really great to be at a conference in St. Cloud supporting the work that you guys do. So I'm going to talk just really briefly about the various government food programs. And these are programs that give their participants benefits, and they usually are issued as checks or vouchers or tokens. And these benefits are so that they can go to your farmers markets and buy healthy foods to meet their requirements. So I'm going to talk about 5 programs: the Farmers Market Nutrition Program, the Senior Farmers Markets Nutrition Program, the WIC FVV, that's the Fruit and Vegetable Voucher, SNAP benefits, and by the way, there's a quiz on all the acronyms, so pay attention here. Market Bucks, and hopefully I'm going to cover the major programs that you might be seeing. I'm going to break something up here. It's like I'm supposed to be technically efficient because I'm a certain age group, but I'm really not. So here's the check that you would see if you participate in the Farmers Market Nutrition Program. And this is a program, I got it, that can only be redeemed at farmers markets. And program participants are income-eligible pregnant women, breastfeeding women, and children under the age of 5. And eligibility is determined by local WIC clinics. And WIC stands for Women, Infants, and Children, and that's a federal program. So eligible participants go to their WIC clinic, and they can pick up once a year the FMNP check that you just saw. Each one is worth $5. They get 4 of them. So they get $20 to spend at the farmer's market from June 15th until October 31st. And they can buy things like, actually they have to buy things that are fresh, unprepared, locally grown, and it has to be a fruit or vegetable. And for people who are interested in becoming vendors who are part of the program, we have a spring training every year, and it's about an hour long. So clearly what I'm going to go over is a very, very quick and dirty version of it. Whether your market participates, I think, really depends on geography. We don't have the funding, both federally and statewide, to have this program in every WIC clinic. So right now we have 13 participating clinics. They're highlighted in blue. And so for 2013, we had 41 authorized markets. And at those markets, we had 380 vendors who went through the training and were part of the program. And those authorized vendors are identifiable by the bright yellow signs. And every year, if you're a vendor, you have to get a new sticker. So for 2013, it was bright blue. The year before, it was bright pink. We'll have a new one for 2014. Now, this is it is a federal program. We get some state dollars for it too. But if you have questions about rules or whether you can participate, it's administered through the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. So you can contact me, or you can contact Ruth White if you have any questions. The next program is the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. And really, if you are a market manager or a vendor, it's going to be pretty much identical as the program I just talked about. It's different because the funding source is different. But again, it's a $5 check. It can only be redeemed at the farmer's market. Participants are income eligible seniors over the age of 60. And instead of going to a WIC clinic that is, in a government building usually, the seniors can go to a NAPS benefit pickup site, and that can be a food shelf, but sometimes, and I have a picture of a church, sometimes in a church basement, sometimes it's a school. So sometimes it's a temporary location where they set up and they issue benefits for that day. They can get their $20 worth of checks, so it's the 4 $5 checks. And the time frame is the same. So they can spend them from June 15th until October 31st. And eligible foods are the fresh, unprepared, locally grown fruits and vegetables. Again, we don't have funding to cover the entire state. So we have 6 local agencies, but I wanted to point out that Second Harvest Heartland is located in St. Paul, but they have a huge radius of where they issue vouchers. I'm sorry, checks. So even in St. Cloud, there's a Second Harvest Heartland issuing site. So I don't know if that circle is accurate, but I just wanted to show that it does extend far beyond Ramsey County that you see there. And then same for Olmsted. People in Mankato will be receiving benefits even though the headquarters is in Rochester. And again, this is the Minnesota Department of Agriculture administered program, so contact me or Ruth. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you decide what counties are going to get that money?
It depends on the number of participants that they have, and then if there's a market available, and then also just the interest of
So
the
do
WIC
you
clinic.
apply for that to get that, or how does
They
it?
normally just contact us. Yep.
So you have the market, the WIC clinic does?
The WIC clinic or the local NAPS agency.
So we would go talk to our WIC clinic and then have them talk to you.
Right, yep. And as you can maybe imagine, funding hasn't really increased for this. So it's been, I'm new, Ruth probably knows better, but I think it's been static for a little while. Yeah. Each vendor needs to be trained. No, we have one training, and then you're authorized for all programs. Well, all 3 that I'm going to be talking about right now. So yeah, you would attend one training in the springtime, usually March or April, and then you would be authorized to accept the farmer's market checks, the senior market checks, and then these WIC FVVs, which I'm just going to discuss. The WIC FVV, so WIC, Women, Infants, and Children, offers different nutrition assistance programs to their participants, and one is a voucher. And you can get vouchers for a variety of things. Sometimes it's for baby formula, sometimes it's for whole grains, low-fat milk. But the one voucher that you can redeem at a grocery store or the farmer's market is this fruit and vegetable one. And you can tell it's the fruit and vegetable because it says so right on the check itself. And you want to make sure that if someone comes to your stand that it is the FVV. It says fresh or frozen canned fruits and vegetables, but if you are at the market, you can actually only sell the fresh fruits and vegetables. frozen and canned foods can only be purchased at the grocery stores. And you should recognize this chart by now. So it's the same fresh, unprepared, locally grown fruits and vegetables with the 4 exceptions. And if you come to our training, we talk about why those exist. Does your market participate? Like I said, it's the same 41 markets and 380 vendors who participated in the FMNP and SFMNP. They're identified by those bright yellow signs. And that's because even though this is a program that's administered by the Minnesota Department of Health, we partner with them. And so we and our counterparts at Health hold that training, and therefore you can come to one and be authorized for both. In some states, you have 2 different trainings, and I don't think that works really well for a lot of farmers. Kind of what I already talked about. A lot of people have heard about SNAP and EBT. So SNAP is another food support program. It's federally funded. It used to be called food stamps. And they used to be issued as a check or a paper voucher. But in Minnesota, it's moved on, and it's a electronically issued benefit, and it's on like a plastic card, like a credit card. And so that has caused some challenges for farmers markets to issue benefits to participants. And so that is how, I don't know if you've seen the tokens that they have. The reason why I'm fumbling here is because it's really not our program. It is handled through the Minnesota Department of Human Services, and David Nicholson is speaking at 3:45 to 4:30, and he is the expert on all of this. So always feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I won't be knowledgeable on this one, so I wouldn't recommend it, but David Nicholson is. And market bucks go hand in hand with the SNAP EBT program. So market bucks are actually funded by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota. But in partnership with the Department of Human Services, if you have any questions about how to implement that program, or you can't cash one of the bucks or something like that, you would go back again to David Nicholson and ask him. I'll open it up to questions now. Yes?
Yeah, we had an incident in our market a couple of years ago where someone who was trained and authorized accepted a FMNP coupon, and then her bank refused to cash it for her.
So the question was that someone at their market was authorized for FMNP, went to the bank to cash their check, and the check was rejected. So at this spring training that's about an hour long, we talk about banking practices, and there could be a variety of reasons why that was rejected. We issue everybody a 4-digit vendor ID, and it's on a stamp. If the 4-digit number is illegible, that can get rejected. If the back of the check is not endorsed, it can be rejected. Sometimes people think that they're authorized, but they actually aren't, and then that can get rejected as well. If that happens to you, always give us a call, because we do want to help you with that. We don't have any control over the banking fees that you might incur, but we do write letters on your behalf, just saying that it is a hardship, usually explaining why there was this return, and just asking them if they can waive the fee or minimize it. But part of this training is really to get in front of any issues that you might have, so that you know all the steps to take.
I think actually in that case it was an issue where the bank staff person wasn't familiar with it and just said, no, we won't take it. So then what did somebody do?
So in that case, the bank staff might not have known about the program and didn't accept it. And I mean, I guess in that case, you could always contact us, so we could talk to the bank and say, this is the program, you should probably cash these on behalf of that individual. Yeah.
In response to that, I've heard some banks they want a business account rather than a personal account for those checks.
Yep. So some banks want you to have a business account and you can't cash it, or they don't want you to cash it in your personal. One thing we recommend is to go every week and cash a few of the checks, because if you go in at the end of the year with 200, they might want you to open up that business account, but if you go in with maybe 20 a week, you can probably cash it in your personal. Yeah.
With the WIC FWB, is that the same as you have to be authorized to accept them through the WIC office to use? So if I, for instance, went to the WIC office and got that voucher for fresh foods, could you automatically take that to the market, or that market the farmer's market has to accept them? Is it like a process just like the FMNP?
Yes, and so the question was, is there a process to be authorized? Is there a process for the market to be authorized to accept the WIC fruit and vegetable vouchers? And the answer is yes. So if the market has gone through the training and the vendors have gone through the training to accept the Farmers Market Nutrition Program and the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program checks,
Or you have to take them all?
then they all, yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So once you're trained for one, you're trained for, it's like a 1 for 3.
Somebody was talking about earlier how additional staffing at the market was important for staff and CBTs, and having some kind of centralized process, how that is that necessary for the programs, or can the individual vendors staff?
Yeah. So there's a question about whether for the FMNP, SF, and the WIC FVBs, if there's any extra staffing required. And that's no, because you as a farmer or a vendor just take those checks and then you go to your bank.
When do you start your schedule, your training schedule?
We will probably set our training schedule in January, February. And Ruth and I have been talking to, we normally hold it at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture's building in St. Paul, but we have been thinking about doing a little bit of traveling, because I think it's helpful and people are more comfortable to ask questions about the program when they have a live person in front. And we do know that there are a lot of rules to this, and we want to make sure that we provide you guys the right resources for all that. One more, yeah.
Would you ever be willing to do an individualized training for a market if we get all of our vendors together at our location? Would you come out and do that?
And the question was whether we would do an individualized training for a market. I think, it would really depend on our schedules. We would not rule that out. And it would be great if we could get even like a few markets to come to that. Yeah. Yes.
I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about other government food assistance programs, and that what comes in mind is, for example, in Morris, Minnesota, there's a senior center that receives government food assistance program for the entire center, and the food comes in trucks from somewhere. And the same thing for the daycare center that is also funded through a government assistance program. So I'm wondering if there is a connection or an encouragement basically for food assistance programs on bigger scales to connect them with farmers markets.
I'm not going to repeat that question because it was really long, but I think what you were talking about, there is a larger food commodities program, and that is handled through the Minnesota Department of Health. And if you want to touch base with me, I can try and figure out who that person would be.
It's actually DHS, that program. And for the
Health and Human
program.
Services.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not me, but it's my area, so I can forward questions about that.
Great.